The day Earth disappeared, the Galactic Council's grand chamber hummed with tension, its massive, spiraling architecture filled with the murmurs of 200 alien representatives, each a ruler, diplomat, or high-ranking official from their respective worlds. The hall, illuminated by the soft glow of 3 artificial suns, shimmered as the Council's leader, High Chancellor Vorton, raised a 4-fingered hand. The room fell silent. Suspended above the council floor, a holographic projection of Earth spun slowly in the air. Bright blue oceans, swirling white clouds, and sprawling cities flashed across its surface, displaying the astonishing growth of human civilization. Vorton's silver eyes narrowed, his deep voice vibrating through the chamber. "We convene today under dire circumstances. The species known as humans have become a growing threat." With a flick of his clawed hand, streams of data materialized around the hologram, graphs depicting an alarming rate of technological progression. Exponential advancements in military technology, rapid expansion into space, a species evolving too fast, too unpredictably. The murmurs returned, louder this time. A representative from the Trade Federation stood, her chitinous exoskeleton clicking as she adjusted her translator. "They are still primitive," she argued. "They lack faster-than-light travel. Their fleets are barely functional beyond their own star system." Vorton's gray-skinned face remained unreadable. "And yet," he countered, "our projections show that they will achieve FTL within the next 5 years. Their military capabilities are advancing at an even more alarming rate." The hologram shifted, displaying images of Earth's wars, past and present. Footage of human conflicts, battles that spanned centuries. Unlike most species that achieved peace after planetary unification, humanity continued to fight, not for survival, but for ideology, for conquest, for sport. They are the only known species to wage war even after unifying their planet, Vorton continued. They fight not just out of necessity, but for glory. Their entertainment is built on violence. Their history is drenched in blood. The murmurs turned to fearful whispers. Then came the final image. A human warship, larger than anything a pre-FTL species should have been capable of constructing. Its hull was scared from battle, its weapons primitive yet devastatingly efficient. The Galactic Council had been observing Earth for centuries. They had studied countless civilizations before, but never had they seen one like humanity. And now, the time for observation was over. A vote was called. The decision to erase humanity. It took only minutes for the ruling to be decided. Vorton's voice carried across the hall, final and unwavering. For the safety of all civilized species, Earth must be erased. A young council member rose to his feet, eyes wide with horror. "But there are 8 billion sentient beings on that planet," he protested. "This is genocide." Vorton turned his gaze toward him, expression cold and calculating. "If left unchecked, those 8 billion will become a threat to the 8 trillion across the galaxy." The chamber remained silent. The decision was made. The mechanism of Earth's destruction had already been prepared. A device engineered by an ancient race, recovered and repurposed for moments such as this. A dimensional displacement weapon. Not a bomb, not an attack. A single pulse of energy would cause the very fabric of space to fold in on itself, wiping the planet from reality. As if it had never existed. A merciful elimination. And with that, the Council moved on to the next item on the agenda. Earth was gone. At least, that's what they believed. Mars Base 1. The last witnesses. Far away, on the dusty red surface of Mars, Commander Peter Wilson stood at the reinforced window of Mars Base 1, staring at the blue jewel that was Earth hanging in the sky. It was supposed to be a routine day. Mars Base 1 housed 10,000 colonists, a mix of military personnel, engineers, and scientists. The largest human colony beyond Earth. Wilson took a sip of coffee, sighing as he turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Davis. Status report. Davis tapped a few commands into the console. All systems green. Hydroponics are at full efficiency. Water reserves are stable. She paused. However, we're picking up strange readings from the edge of the solar system. Wilson frowned. Strange how? Davis hesitated, then turned the display toward him. The screen flashed with massive energy spikes, originating from an unknown source just beyond Pluto's orbit. Whatever it is, it's big, Davis said, her voice uncertain. And it's coming through. Wilson's stomach dropped. The eradication of Earth. Across Mars Base 1, alarms blared. Engineers abandoned their work. Scientists scrambled to their stations. Soldiers rushed to arm themselves, uncertain of the threat approaching their home system. Then, on the main display, the object revealed itself. A ring-shaped construct, larger than any human-made structure, appeared at the farthest edge of the solar system. It was ancient, pulsing with violet energy, its surface covered in symbols no human had ever seen. Wilson's heart pounded. "Get me Earth Command now," he barked. Davis' hands flew across the controls. Communications are being jammed. The energy readings spiked violently. Then, before anyone could react, a column of purple light erupted from the device, striking Earth directly. For a brief, terrible moment, Earth flickered, like a mirage in the desert. Wilson's breath caught in his throat. The light intensified. And then, Earth was gone. Nothing remained. Not debris. Not an explosion. Not even dust. Just empty space where the planet had been. The aftermath of annihilation. The silence in Mars Base 1 was deafening. Tens of thousands of people stood frozen, their eyes locked onto the void where Earth had once been. Parents who would never see their children again. Children who would never go home. Commander Wilson's coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering against the floor. The only sound in the control room was the shattered remains of a world now lost forever. Earth had been erased, and with it, the fate of humanity had changed forever. But the Council had made a mistake. They had overlooked two things. First, they had left witnesses. Second, they had underestimated humanity's capacity for survival and revenge. Because even though Earth was gone, humanity was not extinct. And deep within the underground levels of Mars Base 1, a small team of scientists gathered around a single flickering console, a screen filled with strange energy readings. Readings that indicated one undeniable fact. Earth wasn't destroyed. It had been moved. And if it could be moved, it could be found. Wilson clenched his fists, determination igniting in his veins. "We're not just going to survive," he growled. "We're going to find Earth. And when we do," his eyes burned with fury, "we're going to make them pay." Echoes of a lost world. The Martian sky was the same as ever, cold, barren, and indifferent to the horrors unfolding beneath it. The humans of Mars Base 1 were now the last known remnants of their species. Earth was gone. Its people, its history, all erased in an instant. Yet, as the last embers of shock faded, a new fire ignited. Not of grief, but of determination. Commander Peter Wilson stood in the underground war room, staring at the holographic display that once showed their connection to Earth. Now, it displayed only void. His hands clenched into fists of steel. If Earth was destroyed, there would be debris. He turned to the scientists gathered around him. But there's nothing. No fragments. No dust. No radiation spikes. Dr. Elena Thomas, the colony's lead physicist, nodded grimly. "That's because Earth wasn't destroyed," she said. "It was displaced." The room went silent. A young technician named Derek Voss broke the hush, his voice barely above a whisper. "You mean, Earth is still out there?" Dr. Thomas inhaled sharply. "Yes, and we may be able to find it." The dimensional ripples. The holographic display flickered as Dr. Thomas tapped a command into the console. A set of energy readings appeared, pulsing like waves in an ocean. "This pattern," she said, pointing to the fluctuating blue pulses, "it's like an echo." When the dimensional displacement weapon was fired, it didn't just erase Earth, it folded space around it, moving it somewhere else. Commander Wilson narrowed his eyes. Moved where? Thomas sighed. We don't know yet, but these energy readings tell us that Earth still exists. It's just out of sync with our dimension. The war room erupted into murmurs. A scientist in the back spoke up. If the Council moved Earth, they must know where it is. Wilson's gaze hardened, which means we need to find out what they know. The murmurs stopped. The realization was as heavy as the weight of the Martian sky pressing down on them. The only way to find Earth was to go after the ones who took it. And that meant declaring war on the Galactic Council, humanity's last stronghold. Mars Base 1 was never designed for war. It was built as a research outpost, a stepping stone for future interstellar expansion. But now it had become humanity's last fortress. Wilson called an emergency council in the underground Central Command Center. Every remaining leader, scientist, engineer, and soldier was present. On the central screen, the message was clear. Mission Objective: Find Earth. Survive. Strike back. Wilson took a deep breath. We have two priorities. First, survival. Second, retribution. The room remained silent, waiting for orders. Our supplies won't last forever. We need to expand, turn every inch of this base into farmland, power plants, and water purification centers. Mars is our new home now, and we need to treat it as such. Dr. Elena Thomas nodded. We also need more resources. If we're going to track Earth, we need power, more than we have now. We need alien tech. Wilson's jaw tightened. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. But deep within the Martian soil, buried beneath ancient rock formations, lay something inhuman. A long-abandoned alien structure. Something never meant to be found by humans. The Forgotten Vault. 2 hours later, Wilson, Thomas, and a team of elite engineers descended into the lower levels of Mars Base 1. A vast cavern stretched before them. An ancient structure embedded in the bedrock, its surface covered in alien glyphs pulsing faintly with energy. Dr. Thomas ran her hands over the symbols, her fingers trembling. This isn't just old, she whispered. This is millions of years old. Wilson stepped forward, gripping his plasma rifle. Can we open it? Voss, the young technician, tapped his console. I think so, but whatever is inside, it's still active. The words hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Wilson nodded. Then let's wake it up. Voss pressed a final command. The vault shuddered. Dust rained from the ceiling as a massive door groaned open, revealing an interior bathed in an eerie blue glow. Inside, stretching for miles beneath the surface, lay an array of machines, alien technology still humming with power. And at the center of the chamber, embedded in a pillar of glowing crystal, was a star map. Wilson took a step closer, and his blood ran cold. Because there, marked in pulsating red, was Earth. It was real. It was still out there. But it was not alone. Several other dimensional signatures flickered alongside it, worlds that had been taken before. Humanity was not the first species the Council had erased. And now, Wilson knew the truth. This was not just about saving Earth. This was about stopping the Galactic Council before they erased anyone else. The birth of the Resistance. The next day, Wilson stood before the entire population of Mars Base 1. 10,000 people. The last of humanity. He looked at their faces, some still filled with grief, others burning with silent rage. He took a deep breath. Yesterday, we discovered the impossible. Earth is still out there, and we have a way to find it. The crowd stirred, whispers spreading like wildfire. Wilson's voice hardened. But the Council thinks we're dead. They think humanity is finished. That was their first mistake. He turned toward the engineers. We're going to rewire this base. We're going to repurpose everything. We will turn Mars into a war machine. He looked at the scientists. You will decode that alien technology. You will find Earth." He turned to the soldiers. "And when we do," his voice dropped into a low, dangerous growl, "we will make them pay." The room erupted in a roar, not of despair, of war, of vengeance, the signal that changed everything. 3 months later, deep space sensors detected an anomaly. A faint signal, a coded transmission coming from deep within uncharted space. Wilson leaned over the communications officer's console, his heart pounding. The message repeated, over and over, in distorted yet unmistakably human words. "This is Captain Mira Vasquez of the UES Horizon. If anyone is out there, we need help. We have survivors. We have found Earth." The room exploded into motion. Hope ignited like a wildfire. Wilson's hands clenched into fists. "Trace that signal." The techs worked frantically, screens flashing as the transmission's location became clearer. And then, the coordinates locked in. A single, sharp pulse ran through the room. "Commander," Davis whispered, "we found them." Wilson exhaled slowly. His next words carried the weight of a species on the brink of rebirth. "Then it's time to bring our people home." The spark of vengeance. The transmission repeated. "This is Captain Mira Vasquez of the UES Horizon. If anyone is out there, we need help. We have survivors. We have found Earth." The words echoed through Mars Base 1's war room, cutting through the silence like a blade. Commander Peter Wilson clenched his fists, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. For months, he had led the last remnants of humanity, pushing them to survive, to fight, to prepare. And now, a miracle. Someone had escaped the Council's purge. Someone had found Earth. The room exploded into movement as officers scrambled to track the signal's origin. Lieutenant Sarah Davis's fingers flew over the control console, decoding the message's coordinates. The readings came in. The room froze. Dr. Elena Thomas, still in her lab coat, adjusted her glasses as she stared at the results. "This can't be right," she whispered. "That transmission didn't come from normal space." Wilson turned sharply. "Explain." Elena tapped the holographic screen, bringing up a 3D projection of the galaxy. A glowing red dot marked the signal's location, a dead zone in interstellar charts, a place where no ships should have survived. "The signal is coming from a dimensional rift," she said, "from the very space where Earth was taken." The murmurs turned into sharp gasps. Wilson stared at the map. For the first time since the annihilation of Earth, they had a real lead, a chance to bring their home back. But first, they had to rescue the survivors. Building the first human warfleet. The Martian underground hummed with life and purpose. Once a colony built for scientific research, Mars Base 1 was transforming into something else entirely. A fortress, a war machine. In the underground hangars, engineers worked day and night, retrofitting old transport ships, arming them with salvaged weapons and experimental Martian technology. They had no FTL capabilities, yet, but deep in the alien vault they had discovered, reverse engineering efforts were underway. Dr. Thomas had her top scientists working on the dimensional engine technology they had recovered. If they could crack the code, they could do more than reach the survivors. They could chase the Galactic Council into the void itself. Wilson stood at the heart of the operations center, overseeing every development. The first Martian warship stood in the launch bay. The UES Revenant. It was nothing like the smooth, sleek ships of the Council. It was rugged, forged in fire, built for survival. It was human. And it was ready to strike. The mission: find the survivors. A week later, the fleet was assembled. 3 ships, each armed with railguns, plasma cannons, and stealth systems salvaged from alien wreckage. Their mission was simple: locate the survivors, extract them, learn everything they know about Earth's disappearance. Wilson stood on the command deck of the UES Revenant, staring at the dark void ahead. Behind him, Lieutenant Davis gave the final launch sequence. The hangar doors opened, revealing the vast Martian desert. and beyond it, the endless black of space. "All ships, prepare for departure," Wilson commanded. "We're going hunting." The rift beyond time. The journey took 3 days. When they arrived at the coordinates of the distress call, the sight before them sent chills through the crew. A massive rift shimmered in space, a tear in reality, pulsating with violet and blue energy. It was a scar left by the weapon that had taken Earth, and on the edge of that wound, drifting in the emptiness, was a single ship, the UES Horizon. It was damaged beyond recognition, its hull scorched, sections of it completely exposed to space. But its beacon still blinked. It was still alive. Wilson exhaled. "Prepare for docking, and get me a connection to that ship." Davis nodded, sending out a signal. "This is the UES Revenant. We are here to extract you. Respond." A moment passed. Then static. And then a voice. "Revenant, this is Captain Mira Vasquez." A pause. "You need to leave. Now." The war room fell silent. "What do you mean?" Wilson demanded. "We came to get you out." Vasquez's voice was strained, urgent. "You don't understand. The Council, they didn't just erase Earth. They imprisoned it." The crew stared at each other, confused. Wilson's stomach turned cold. "What are you saying?" A deep metallic groan filled the comms. Vasquez's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're here. The Council's hunters." A burst of energy erupted from the rift. Tear-shaped warships materialized from the void, sleek, black, and armed with Council technology far beyond human comprehension. The Galactic Council had sent their enforcers. Davis's hands flew across the controls. "Commander, we have incoming. 6 ships, fully armed." Wilson gritted his teeth. The Council had found them. And they weren't here to negotiate. "Shields up, weapons hot," he barked. But Vasquez's voice cut through the noise again. "Wilson, listen to me. They will not let you leave. You have to run." Wilson's hands clenched. No, they had come too far. They had fought too hard. And now, humanity's first battle against the Council was about to begin. "Negative, Captain," Wilson said, his voice hard as steel. "We're not leaving you behind." The Council ships moved fast, their sleek forms cutting through space like predators. "All ships, engage." The first Martian war fleet opened fire. The first battle for humanity. Railguns roared, their high-velocity slugs slamming into the Council's energy shields. Plasma cannons sizzled, searing into their hulls. But the Council ships were faster, smarter, more advanced. One Martian ship, the UES Defiant, took a direct hit, its hull exploding in a burst of flames. "Defiant is down." Wilson gritted his teeth. They were outmatched, outgunned. But they were not out of options. Davis shouted, "Captain, the rift. We might be able to overload it." Wilson's mind raced. The Council had used the same technology to erase Earth. If they could turn that energy against them. "Do it," he ordered. Davis slammed the command. The rift shuddered. And then it erupted. The explosion ripped through the battlefield, consuming the Council ships in a surge of pure dimensional energy. When the light faded, the Council's ships were gone, and the UES Horizon remained. Humanity had won its first battle. But war was far from over. Wilson turned to the comms. "Vasquez, we're bringing you home." The Martian fleet turned back toward Mars, carrying the first survivors of the war. The first of many. And as they moved through the void, Wilson made a silent vow. "We will find Earth, and we will make them pay."